Hey, welcome back to a new episode of It's Business Crime. Last episode we made a marketplace where our players could duke it out with the town guard. And in this episode we're looking at how to run combat from the law enforcement perspective.
Let me at 'em!
We are going to break down the town guard in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. We're going to make a bunch of new town guards that you can use and download absolutely for free. Not only that, but in this video we're going to talk strategy and tactics, how to deploy your guards to make your criminal players have a really bad time and an unforgettable session. So just a reminder, we're still in our starting town that we've been focusing on, so we'll still assume our player characters are somewhere between level 1 and 4, and we will look at how we start our police response and how to escalate it. Before we move on, let's update the town. There it is, beautiful. The economy flourishes. Remember to vote with likes and subscribes if you want me to remain the mayor of our little town. So, let's look at what we're dealing with then as a dungeon master. Here is a town guard as described in the Monster Manual for 5th edition. It's on page 347, and it's not much, is it? So a town guard in 5th edition is really simple. Essentially, it's just a humanoid with some basic armor and a stick. In my opinion, it's a chunk weaker than your average level 1 player. And if you compare it with other low-level monsters, well, our guard is stronger than an average goblin, but weaker than your standard orc. Which sounds about right to me in terms of what power level we want for the guard. One level 1 hero could take out a guard one-on-one, but it isn't a certainty and probably would drain them of resources a bit. You know, like HP and abilities. The higher the level of our player, then the harder it's going to be for our guard trying to take them down. So the stat block for the guard is completely fine, but it is too basic for what I want from our town guard in combat. We're going to give them a brand new action and an item that they'll all carry. So, it's level 1 and the police are trying to take in your players, and your players are refusing. Well, our guards need something extra to help with this. We're going to give them an item I think each guard should have, and that item is already in the player's handbook. I'm talking manacles. What are manacles? Well, they're handcuffs, basically, old-timey handcuffs. If a guard is next to a PC, I'm going to say they can perform a contested grapple action. If they succeed in grapple a PC, well, on their next turn as an action, they can handcuff them and throw them to the ground, pinning them, making them incapacitated. Or, before that, another guard can come along and do the handcuffing while the other guard holds the target. When I'm adding this to the stat block, I'm calling this the arrest action. So what does it actually mean to be handcuffed in 5th edition? There are a number of conditions in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, but none of them quite match what we want. So we're going to homebrew our own specialist condition, and it's simply called handcuffed. The handcuffed condition makes sense. So, our condition states that your hands are cuffed behind your back, limiting your movement and actions. You can attempt to escape from the manacles, but beside that, you cannot perform any actions of any kind that involve using your hands. Other effects, if you are prone, it takes all of your turn's movement to stand up, because it's a lot harder to do it with your hands behind your back, and you have disadvantage on grapple contests while you are cuffed. So if you are cuffed, the cops are going to have a much easier time controlling you, throwing you into the back of the police wagon or whatnot. Now with this condition, I am making the assumption that your guards have handcuffed them with their hands behind their back. If their hands are in front of them, they may be able to do some actions. Just play it by ear for what makes sense in the situation. Now, I mentioned you could attempt to escape as an action. If you check the player handbook and you look for manacles, you're going to see that if you've been restrained by some of these, you've got to do a successful DC 20 dexterity check or a DC 20 strength check. And if you have lockpick and stuff, well, you can do a DC 15 dex check with that instead. And they've got 15 hit points. So that's actually pretty brutal to escape from, especially if your characters are on the lower levels of things. But I love it. Remember, in our previous episodes, I like my D&D crime to be high risk and high reward. If they've messed up, low-level players are in for a bad time. And it's okay to be severe, because even if everyone gets cuffed, it's not game over, but actually an opportunity for fun prison antics. Now, this is a very rare style of combat encounter where the enemy to our players isn't trying to send them to the afterlife, but actually just trying to apprehend them instead. So we can be a bit rougher with them because of that. We don't have to pull our punches as much. Also, there is a small window where they are grappled and not cuffed. So they actually have a moment, a little time gap to attempt and break out of the grapple. Or another player on their turn can intervene, breaking the grapple instead. So I like that. There's play and counterplay to be had, and I think that makes it interesting and a little bit of spice we can throw into the battle. So now that we have these tools that we've added to the guard's stat block, what's next? Well, let's talk strategy. I think across the board, no matter what type of settlement your players are at, the town guards follow 3 universal principles. We'll consider these 3 principles the basic programming of the brains of our guard. Because you never know when your players are going to commit a crime. It can jump out at any moment. And if you have these 3 principles in mind, well, you can run the guards immediately and not have to do any preparation for it. We already know the basic gist of what the guards are going to do. Number 1, they don't like being outnumbered. Town guards know their greatest strength is their numbers and working together. After all, we are on their turf. So the guards know this, and they'll have specialist tactics that they will deploy on the battlefield. Let's give the guard character sheet an extra ability feature we'll call Shields Up. The guardsman is next to another guardsman, and they both have their shields equipped. They each receive a +1 to their AC. And this is stackable, but only works in a line. So the guards can form a little line, and if you have 2 buddies next to you, well, you'll get a +2 to your AC. Not too shabby. If you're a player and you notice this, well, you can use abilities that move other creatures on the battlefield to break it up. Number 2 of our 3 universal guard principles, they want to capture you if they can. So we gave them manacles for a reason, and the guards, well, they're going to try and take you to prison. So their strategy is simple. So when a fight breaks out with the town guard, well, they are going to try to grapple your players and then do the arrest action on them. One guard isn't going to be able to do that very effectively, so generally speaking, they'll want to work in pairs, with one guard doing the grabbing while the other guard does the arresting. With the manacles on, our player, or whoever's been manacled, can't do any actions with their hands, but they can still move, so every time they're cuffed and thrown to the ground, a guard will need to remain with them to stop them getting up. Alternatively, if there's something nearby, or your guard drags them over while grappled, well, they can be handcuffed to something, freeing up the guard to get back into the fray. In terms of freeing them, we have the info from the item description before, but for simplicity's sake, I would say all manacle keys are identical. So if you steal one guard's keys, you can unlock any set of manacles. I mean, at least in this settlement. Here's something to note, though. If the PCs are low on HP, they might not even bother with the manacles and just find it easier to take them down to 0 HP, with a safe nerf attack than attempt to have to do the whole grapple thing. So that's something to always remember. And number 3, here's the thing to remember about the guards: they are not heroes. These guards are made of regular folk, and while they may be braver than your average medieval peasant, at the end of the day, they are just doing a job. That means if you hit them hard enough, they will back off. So take a guard's HP below 5, and they will disengage and fall back. If you crit them, and they somehow survive, well, they'll full-on panic and dash away. They aren't about to give up everything fighting you just because you sold some gold and jewelry. So with all that, I'm pretty happy with our basic town guard, our new version of it at least, and here's the updated character sheet I've made and you can download below. I've changed the name to Town Constable just to make it easier to differentiate the NPCs from the default town guard in the monster manual. I've added, of course, the arrest action and the shields up ability, and on top of that, I think these guys want to be quite good at grappling and arresting, so I've given them proficiency in the athletic skill. So we programmed our guards, we've given them some upgrades. Now that we've done this, how can we bring it together to make a cohesive response to criminal activities from the players? Well, the way I like to visualize the whole thing is simple. I like to visualize it like the wanted levels in Grand Theft Auto, the GTA games, where you have your stars that rise up as the crimes being committed get worse and worse, while the response from the world around the player gets more intense until eventually it's completely overwhelming. So let's imagine you are a dungeon master, your players have done a crime, you're in the town. What do? You've got the town guard stats. How do you put it together? Well, let's go through the star system. Level 1 is the initial response. We have our guards on the scene, so it's only going to be a few, and they're either going to get in there and start fighting and try to arrest your players, or they're going to try and hold the players off while one of them can go get help. So it's up to you how many guards you put into the initial response. It depends a lot on the context. You might not want the police to get super involved, so 1 or 2 guards could be there, allowing your players to quite easily overcome them and feel like badasses. But if you do want to do the whole shebang, well, our runner is going to have to go and get help. So the players are going to try and stop them, and you're going to try to stop them from stopping them. Because if they stop them, then there's no reinforcements, so you got to make sure they don't stop them. Make sense? Okay, so the guards that remain, well, they're going to have to try and deal with the players. As we've said, they're going to try and arrest them. But if there's only a few of them, well, they're going to be cautious about it. Adventurers are crazy powerful and unpredictable. The guards who are there, they're going to work together. They're going to do their shields up ability to give them as much AC as possible and start focusing down the heroes one by one. Not only that, but they are really trying to make sure that the alarm is going to go off. So if one of the players breaks off to try and take down the guard's runner, they're going to try and stop the players from doing that. They want the alarm to go off. They want the reinforcements, especially if it feels like they're not going to be able to take down the team of players by themselves. When it comes to 5th edition and the rules for chasing characters, I actually think rules as written isn't very good. It's long-winded and tedious. So what I tend to do with my players is I'll take the battle map and I'll say, look, if this character gets to these squares here, they've officially escaped from the battle and they're going off to do whatever. So I usually position the square so it gives them at least 1 or 2 turns to maybe interfere and stop the reinforcements going through. Otherwise, it just becomes that thing of, oh, I dash on my turn, they dash on their turn, I dash on my turn, they dash on their, I dash, you dash, I dash, you dash. It just takes forever. So this works quite well for me. Give it a go if you want. Or don't. It's up to you. It's a free country. Do what you want. So the guards who remain, well, they might succeed, they might fail. Regardless, if the runner gets to the edge of the map, I consider that they've escaped and they're alerting the other town guard. So now it's time to move up to Star Wanted Level 2. With Level 2, well, reinforcements are on the way. We're going to send in waves and waves of guards, the regular town guards that we've adapted, but we're going to introduce a new type of town guard as well. We'll call them the Town Rider. These are guards on horseback. They have a lot of mobility, and we're going to give them something special as well, because they're not going to go for the arrest manacle play. No, they're going to do something that matches their horseback style. Let's bring up the Town Rider stat block and see what we can do. So the main thing being on a horse, it grants you huge movement. So we're going to automatically give the Town Rider 60 feet of movement. Not only that, we're going to boost their strength and give them proficiency in animal handling. They still have their spear and shield, but we're going to add something else to their repertoire. We're just going to give them a simple net. So the net is actually in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition already, so we don't have to do anything with this one. Basically, if you have a net, you do a strength attack with proficiency, and if you hit the target, well, the target is restrained. So being restrained isn't great. Your speed becomes 0, and attack rolls against the creature have advantage, while their attack rolls have disadvantage, and the creature also has disadvantage on dexterity saving throws. So it's a bit debilitating, but with the net, you can escape in a few ways. A creature can use its action to make a DC 10 strength check, freeing itself or another creature within reach on a success. Another way to free anyone caught in a net is you can do 5 slashing damage to it. I mean, the net's AC is only 10, and it doesn't hurt whoever's trapped inside the net as well. So this isn't the most dangerous threat to the players, but we're using it in tandem with the other guards. You know, they're out there, they're grappling, they're arresting, so you have the riders with their nets, and we're slowly increasing the temperature on this now boiling pot of law enforcement. And that brings us to Star Level 3. I feel like this is as much as the town can bring to bear against our naughty PCs. And we are bringing in the Specialist Guards. Hold on to your hats, folks. Let's take a look. In our example, the fight has been raging on, and our PCs are holding their own against the constables and riders, maybe even beating them back. We've had 2 rounds of reinforcements of the riders, and now the guards are going to be throwing everything at them. The next wave of reinforcements will arrive in a large horse-drawn wagon. This vehicle will come bounding in and is a good opportunity to change up the battlefield somewhat, adding new terrain and cover for your guards in the form of the large vehicle's frame. But that's just an extra bonus for the guard side. The real threat to our PCs are the new units who will deploy from the back of this wagon. I'm introducing 2 new guard types, the Town Archer and the Town Deacon. This wagon contains 4 archers and 2 deacons, what I would describe as a squad of specialists. Now, the Town Archer is simple. It's a variation on the Town Constable we've made already. They've got their own set of manacles as well, but their stat block is focused to make them more dangerous ranged combatants, as you would expect. They have high dexterity and nothing else, really, but that's fine. Their whole job is to stay away from the front line and back up the other constables with constant arrow fire. They're going to move behind cover, preferably at an elevated position, while also trying not to group up with their allies. From here, they are then going to try to wear down the PCs with their ranged attacks. Although they do have a short sword, they don't want to use it because they are only wearing padded armor. They do not like being in melee combat, and if someone gets up in their grill, they will use their turn to disengage and move away. Also, I've added to the stat block something called Chunky Gambeson. This was a type of padded armor used back in the day, and in 5e, padded armor gives you disadvantage on stealth checks. So I've noted it down, just in case our town archers are trying to sneak up on the PCs. It might help you remember this easy-to-forget detail. I'm not sure exactly why padded armor gives disadvantage, because you'd imagine it'd actually be quite quiet armor. So to justify this, I like to imagine this Gambeson. It's a large, cheaply produced, cumbersome suit that does provide protection, but limits movements because it's not very well made. It's been mass-produced. Back to the tactics, though. If they do take a PC down to 0 HP or below, they do this non-lethally, even with their ranged attacks. And if there are no other constables around, they will then go in for the arrest themselves. So these 4 archers are already pretty scary. But now we have the other new type of guard, the deacons, to deal with. I've named them deacons because in certain churches, historically, this is the rank below priest. And that's exactly what I'm imagining. These folk are religious warriors who wield a small amount of divine power, often worshipping gods of law and order. But they're not a full magic user like a cleric or a priest, to which a town like this might only have one in the whole settlement. Now, with so many different guard roles, I don't want to overcomplicate things with a spellcaster who has half a dozen options at their fingertips that we as DMs have to remember. Instead, we have a support-style guard who's going to back up the rest of our deployment. To start off, they wield a mason shield into battle, but this shield is adorned with their holy symbol and thus acts as their spell component for their main ability, which I call the Blessing of Justice. So, for this new type of guard, I have pulled inspiration from 2 video games I absolutely love, XCOM and Hearthstone. So in XCOM, it's a squad tactics game focused on fighting invading aliens. There is an enemy called the Sectoid, and it's clearly based off of your standard classic grey alien that you might see in the X-Files back in the 90s. And this Sectoid can use an ability to psionically connect to another Sectoid soldier, which makes this new soldier stronger. I love how this works in the game. I think it's really good fun, because it's a strength and a weakness. Since these two are connected, the recipient is boosted. But if the original Sectoid who's giving the buff is eliminated, it actually takes them both out. So it's a bit of a gamble on the alien side of the fight. So I want to make something that's a little bit similar. I want to take this idea and want to combine it with an ability from another game, the magic card game Hearthstone. In this game, you pick a class, you create a 30-card deck, and then you duke it out with another player, summoning minions and casting spells, all that good stuff. One thing minions can do in this game is they have an ability called Divine Shield. It's a magic force field bubble that appears once the minion is summoned into battle. And the next time that minion would receive damage, no matter how much damage it is, well, Divine Shield blocks it all and then pops itself. It's a great way to increase your minion's survivability and give them a little bit more time in the fight. Now, this is classed as a holy spell in Hearthstone, and I think it would fit perfectly in our Town Guard encounter. Anyway, back to the Deacon's main ability. It's going to combine these 2 game elements I love. With Blessing of Justice, our holy caster picks another character within 20 feet that they can see, and they start channeling their god's support, which creates a wondrous swirling holy energy field around the target. This protects them. And just like in Hearthstone, it will absorb all the damage of the next attack, and then the concentration will be broken as the field breaks. The Deacon will have to maintain concentration while the bubble is intact, so it can only be cast on 1 target per Deacon at a time. And just like in XCOM, if you force the Deacon to break concentration or fully take out a Deacon while they're channeling the spell, we will have a reward for the players waiting. The guard who was being buffed will instantly be hit with the frightened condition, specifically for all the PCs involved. They just felt like they had a god of justice at their back empowering them. Suddenly, that's been ripped away and they feel completely naked. So altogether, what does this look like? When we bring the wagon in, on its turn, it will drive through the map and the archers will all deploy out the back, one after the other, like we were saying. They'll immediately run to cover, and this is a fun and flashy entrance for sure. Once the wagon stops its movement, the deacons will then emerge, and on their turn, they will always be using the Blessing of Justice action first, and if that's already being channeled, then they will do one of 3 other things. If things are a bit hairy, they'll take cover. If the fight's going their way, they might engage in melee, help to end it sooner. And if you want to go easy on our players, maybe they're having a bit of a rough time, well, we've given the Deacon the Spare the Dying cantrip, so we can have them go up to guards who've been taken out in the fight and cast the spell on them. And it is, in all honesty, a waste of their turn, but it's a flavorful waste. It shows the guards are a team and care about each other. I might even go so far as to describe it like a defibrillator, you know? A huge magic pulse of energy comes out of the Deacon's hands on the guard's chest, and the guard wakes up, gasping for air. For clarification, they don't actually come back into the fight or anything. It just makes the world feel a bit more rich, a bit more real. And of course, I'd got to throw in a few classic lines like, "Don't you go dying on me, man!" The guards, who are blessed, feel amazing and should be much more willing as well to get up in the PC's faces. They have the backing of a deacon and justice is on their side. So again, you can throw a bit of role-playing elements in. Maybe the guards get a bit overconfident, start taunting our players. Now, after the specialists arrive and we've had a few rounds of combat, this battle will have lasted quite a while. And you could, in theory, just keep reinforcing over and over. I mean, after all, this settlement might have hundreds of guards at its disposal. So the question emerges, how do we wrap this up? At this point, I would have a leader figure emerge on the battlefield, on the side of the town guards. Now, I'm not going to make a stat block for this one, because I think this character will be entirely unique for each settlement and to your own setting. But I will give you some examples. It could be simply the commander of the town guard getting involved, or it might be the mayor of the settlement. It might also be an NPC we've introduced before that's important to the current quest, desperate to get the adventurers back on the important task at hand.
Hey, Michael, let's get married!
Whatever you come up with, whoever you make, they don't actually have to be a super tough boss type. You know, a guy who comes in and absolutely beats up everyone. They can literally just have the commonest stat line. Their real purpose is to give you the option to wrap things up quick and concisely once you feel this battle has run through its best bits. As the stars go up and we flood the battlefield with more and more guards, well, in 5th edition, it can be a bit laborious to clear out every single one of those guards if the PCs are winning. On the other hand, it can also be a bit demoralizing if they start losing and the town guard get turn after turn of just beating up our player characters. So, to make things have a climactic ending to our encounter, we can have this leader NPC appear and call for a pause in the battle, a moment of calm, and offer a deal to the adventurers. What type of deal do we offer? Well, that depends on how the battle is going. If the PCs are losing, let's say 2 of them had been handcuffed and are pinned by the constables, the other 2 are hiding behind cover, desperately fighting for their lives, well, perhaps the leader appears and demands they surrender, stating that they will be more lenient with our heroes if they come along peacefully now, and it'll only get worse if they keep fighting from this point onwards. This gives our players an out and can speed things up, even if they refuse to surrender, because at that point we can transfer from a battle to a series of skill checks and a fun roleplay description to have the 2 scrappy criminals escape from the guard. Of course, the town's going to be on full alert if they do escape. You know, the guards are going to be in full patrol constantly. Even the villagers are going to be keeping an eye out for them. And the cuff players, well, they're going to be taken to jail. If you want to know more about that, see our previous episodes if you haven't already. But what if the players are winning? Well, that's fun too. This leader can appear and perhaps start negotiating with this very clearly dangerous gang. asking the players what it is they want and offering them things in exchange for them leaving the town and ending the violence. If it's looking really bad for the town guard, like the wagon turns up and within a turn half of the new squad is down, then the leader might become desperate and they might just surrender on behalf of the town in an attempt to stop this out of control situation, literally giving the players control of a settlement just to stop them beating so many people up. However it goes, there's lots and lots of fun role-playing gold to be had, and this is an opportunity as well for charisma-based PCs to flex their negotiation and intimidation skills. And that is how I would run a low-level town guard encounter that can be as intense as you want. And the best part? Now you can run this without much pre-planning as well. The location and map doesn't matter. Wherever your PCs are, the town guard can be there to dispense justice. So this is our star level system up to level 3, and of course our town's response to not just dangerous criminals, but for scary monsters who might emerge and attack the settlement as well. Now, for our lower level adventurers, this almost certainly is too much to contend with. They might not even make it to level 3, and that's okay. I think that's the way it should be. Low level adventurers aren't meant to be that powerful and should work in the shadows when they commit their crimes if they want to be the most successful they can be. Of course, when they hit higher levels, eventually this small settlement won't be strong enough to hold them back. They might be able to take control of the town quite easily. That's when we go back to the star system, create more levels, and we might need to bring in a kingdom level response for these new, more dangerous player characters. That, however, is a video for another day. For now, I am Mike the Map Maker, and I want to thank you for listening. For the next couple of episodes, I'll be making a series of maps of interesting locations around our town that you might want to rob. We'll run through making them, and I will throw you some ideas of fun stuff you can include when running the maps yourselves at your tables. Until next time, though, keep on trucking.